I'm talking to the Sydney Bears Ice Hockey Club. Well, just a few members of them, not the whole team. We're going to talk about what's coming up for the rest of their 2012 season. They're based out at Baulkham Hills. The home arena, I guess you'd call it, is Sydney Ice Arena. So welcome to the studio, guys. I've got Laurie Mock, who plays defence, Craig Gallo, who's forward.
Thank you.
And Brady Johnson, who's also defence. Now, I really don't know much about ice hockey at all. So maybe to start with, can you tell us a bit about the game?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, obviously, growing up in Canada, we played hockey quite a bit at a young age. And so it involves, there's 5 players on the ice at one time for one team, and a goalie. So there's 12 players total on the ice. Basically, we just try to get a little rubber thing called the puck and shoot it in the net, basically. Sounds easy, but it's actually pretty tough to do. There's guys trying to hit you, trying to slash you, and trying to take the puck from you, and they're trying to do the same thing. So it's a pretty intense game. We only have about 30 seconds on the ice at a time, and we come and change. A new set of guys come on. We get about a 2-minute break, and then go back in for another 30 seconds. So it's a fast-paced game.
And you said, Brady, you're from Canada originally. Is that a bit more popular game over there?
Oh yes, that's our main game. It's on all of our sports channels. It's on all of our news. That's where we have the National Hockey League. It's the best hockey league in the world, and it's in the U.S. and Canada. And that's what we kind of grow up with, and that's what we live to do, is to play hockey.
So how long have you been playing in Australia for the Bears for?
I've been playing. I guess I arrived here in April. And our season ends mid-September. So I've been here for quite a while and just absolutely loving it.
Do you go back after the end of the season, or are you going to stay on here?
That's a good question. I've been actually talking with some teams about continuing my professional hockey career in Europe, and those seasons will start in the European winter, which is in October. So I'm hoping to head there. But to be honest, I can't really see myself leaving Australia. It's just a gorgeous place.
And how long have you been playing ice hockey for overall?
Quite a while, actually. I don't remember, but from what my parents tell me, I started skating at the age of 2. I wasn't very good. I was just kind of falling around, but that's when I was on skates. I think I started playing organized hockey with equipment and everything when I was 4 years old. So quite a while.
And is this something that people can do professionally, or do you guys have like other sort of day jobs?
In Australia, it's not really a professional level just yet. It's not a mainstream sport. Obviously, it's got a lot to compete with. Obviously, like rugby, AFL, NRL, the main big ones here. But definitely overseas, Europe, North America, there are a lot of professional players. Brady's played professional hockey in the SPHL.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, there's definitely an opportunity. And for the first time ever, we had an Australian into the NHL draft, which meant he could potentially be picked up by an NHL team to go and play at the highest level. His name's Nathan Walker, and that just was recently. He missed out on getting picked up, but for an Australian to be selected to enter into that draft for the first time ever, it's a big step for Australian ice hockey. So it is progressing in that direction.
And does the Sydney Bears have many international players?
Yeah, we got 6 in total. We have a couple Canadians, myself and Brady. And then we have a couple Czechs. We have Thomas Landa, Tomáš, as he likes to be called. And then we have Jeremy Spurney, Slavomir Boris. And then we also have a bunch of guys that have come over from Canada and other countries as well. And then have put down some roots here. And then they got their citizenship, and they're able to play.
Did they approach the team, or did the team kind of go looking for them?
With a couple of us been recruited, had the connections. On another, we kind of sent out emails, looked about places we wanted to play. Myself in particular, I was like, I want to travel. Where can I play some hockey? And so I thought Australia, so I sent out some emails, started talking, and then found myself here and loving it ever since.
So, Craig, you're also from Canada?
That's correct. I'm from London, Ontario.
And were you involved pretty heavily in ice hockey back there as well?
Yes, same thing as Brady. I started skating once I could walk, and then
This guy had a rink in his backyard growing up
yeah,
Wow.
I had one.
in the winter.
Yeah, it was awesome. Lasted for a couple months. My dad helped me put it together. We had the boards, lights, and everything. Mesh. Couldn't find a better backyard rink.
I guess that's why it's probably a lot bigger in like Europe and Canada and places like that, because it is something that you can just do very easily. Like if you've got outdoor ice rinks and that kind of stuff. I mean, Australia, you'd expect that it's just very sort of specialist facilities that you could do that in.
It's hard to get ice time here in Australia, whereas in colder countries during the winter, you can access any frozen waterway. You can go for a little skate, have a little shoot around. But in Australia, getting access, first of all, you might have to travel up to an hour to get to an ice rink, depending on where you live, even more. And it can be a bit more expensive to get into, and buying equipment out here is a bit more expensive, so it's a bit tough for people to get into. So that's another challenge the sport faces if it wants to grow. But it's getting bigger every year.
So, Laurie, how did you get into ice hockey?
When I was 10 years old, I was lucky enough to go on a trip to North America. My mum grew up in Canada, and so we went over there to see some family, and obviously it's a massive game over there, and I was exposed to it, and I knew right away that I loved it and I wanted to play. So as soon as I got back, I did some research, found out where I could go, bought some skates, and just never looked back. Just loved it straight away. Loved the feeling of skating on the ice and physical play and shooting the puck. So that's it.
I'm talking to a few of the Sydney Bears Ice Hockey Club about what they've got coming up for the rest of the season this year, and what actually is this thing called ice hockey. What have the Bears got coming up for them for the rest of the season?
Well, our season almost coming to a close. We end, I think, our last games kind of finish up the second week in September. So we do have a few games coming up at the Sydney Ice Arena. We're going to be playing actually tomorrow against the Thunder, the Perth Thunder. So they're flying all the way from Perth to come into town to challenge the Bears. So hopefully we can take them out. And that is game's actually tomorrow at the Sydney Ice Arena. So.
Because it is a bit of a national sport in Australia, although I guess it's still kind of growing. How many teams have you got in New South Wales?
In New South Wales, you've got 3. There's 2 Sydney teams, Newcastle, and, well, that's it. And there's another team from Canberra, so technically not New South Wales, and that makes up our conference. If you're talking about teams at this level, there's 4 teams in that conference, and there's another 5 teams in the other conference. One of them's the Eastern Conference, one of them's the Bauer Conference, but I always get them confused. And the other 5 teams are Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, and the Gold Coast.
So there is kind of different levels of the game.
Well, that's all the same. That's all Australian Ice Hockey League level, and that's the top tier in Australia. But definitely there's levels going from right down from beginners, kids, women, all the way up to our level.
So there is some junior leagues and stuff playing at Norwest. Can people start getting involved in playing ice hockey if they want?
Yes, they can. Yeah, there's quite a few places to rent skates and things like that to start just public skating. That's a good start. You don't want to start throwing on the equipment right away. I mean, you'd probably protect yourself if you fell. Then that might work. But there's minor hockey programs growing actually in this country. Like I said, I've only been here for about 4 months now, but I can just see the hockey in Australia just developing. It's leaps and bounds from what it's been in the past 10 years, maybe.
I think with our rink, it's Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings, I think, but I could be wrong. When they have anyone can just show up and have a bit of a skate and a puck and a shoot around. But more information on that can be found on the websites. Most rinks have that, so you've just got to kind of make a phone call and find out when's the time for a beginner to go and have access to that.
Is there many rinks in New South Wales or Sydney?
I think maybe around 6 or 7. Let me think. You got Liverpool, Baulkham Hills, Canterbury, Newcastle, Central Coast. What am I forgetting here? Did I say Macquarie? Macquarie. That's 6.
And that is it's quite a few rinks, I guess, for Australia. But coming here for Craig and I come from capital of the country, Ottawa, Ontario, and where I just throw this out there, but it's the longest skating rink in the world. It's on the Rideau Canal, and it's just whenever the canal freezes, it's the longest skating rink in the world. So, but skating rinks probably in Ottawa, it's about a fourth the size of Sydney, and it probably has upwards of, I'm not sure, almost 100 rinks. So little ones, big ones, outdoor rinks. So just a little bit different for us coming here and seeing the lack of rinks, but it's like, again, it's great to see.
So if people want to find out more about getting involved with ice hockey or any of the games that you got coming up, you mentioned that you've got a website.
Yeah, we have a website, bearsden.com.au. It's got all of our schedule up there, some stats, some pictures, and I think some game film as well. So you feel free to check it out.
Also, if you happen to be one of those people having this thing called Facebook, we're up on Facebook too. Just search for the Sydney Bears on Facebook, and you can find our page there.
Great. So got pictures and videos and stuff up there as well?
Yes, of course. Yeah, you can see how attractive our players are.
And yeah, just a word of warning as well. If you're going to go and visit an ice hockey game, it gets pretty cold at the rink.
Yeah, it sure does. Be sure to bundle up, put a toque on or a beanie, maybe a winter jacket. It's a little cold. Maybe get a hot chocolate while you're there, some fries, but it's a good time.
I've been talking to some of the players from the Sydney Bears Ice Hockey Club. If you'd like to find out a bit more about the games they've got coming up this year, or you'd like to get involved, or even just find out how to get to some of their games, then just go to their website, which is www.bearsden.com.au.